Welcome to Agency Acquisitions and Exits. I'm your host, Peter Lang. Today I'm joined by Dr. Jim Gregory. He is the pioneer of corporate branding. He spent 40 years proving that corporate branding drives enterprise value. He co-founded with his wife a global consultancy. He created the Core Brand Index to quantify those intangibles. He authored multiple McGraw-Hill and Businessweek books, advising blue chip CEOs on branding and corporate branding. And then he sold his firm to go off and earn a doctorate to prove that his system and his way worked. This is such a resource. You should listen to every minute and stay with us to the end. So let's dive in. Dr. Jim, thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you have so much knowledge to share with us. You have what you're doing now, but you also have an entire career that we could, plug you in and learn from, like the Matrix. So we'll do our best to extract it from you softly.
Good.
Okay, what should the listeners know about your 40-year journey, kind of in an encapsulated sentence or multiple sentences, but what should they know from that experience? Help them understand who you are and what you built over that period of time.
Well, I started out when I was 23 years old and went to New York and opened up my own firm immediately on Madison Avenue. Not because I was rich. I simply was determined. And I took my $300 and put it on a 1 month's rent of a brownstone, a floor of a brownstone, and was able to survive as a result of that and build a business. The second big thing was that I met my wife, my future wife, and she became my business partner. And that was fantastic because I had somebody who was very reliable and very smart. And she had worked on Wall Street and had business savvy. And so she and I joined a team to launch a small advertising agency on Madison Avenue. That was our goal. And for the first 10 years, we were basically just struggling to be alive, to survive. And we would do anything for anyone. And our biggest account was the Long Island Railroad, doing timetables for the Long Island Railroad. And I was thrilled with that because it was very profitable work and it was very exciting and we did well with it. Then we began to really get serious. We were surviving, we were doing well, and we began to focus on what do we really want to be when we grow up. And the one thing that we did that was very profound was join the 4As, the American Association of Advertising Agencies. That was a milestone for us to achieve what their criteria was for success. To be included in their organization was very meaningful for us. And then we began to focus on what is it that makes us different? So then for the first time, we began to think strategically. And our company was growing. It was still just the two owners. The company was called Gregory and Clyburn. I was the Gregory, Evelyn was the Clyburn. And we began to say, one of the problems in our field is that advertising agencies give away their best work, give free ideas in order to get production, the cheapest work. And it just didn't make any sense as a business model. And we said, what could we do to change that entirely? And we've started focusing our company on something we call corporate branding. And we were one of the very first organizations to really develop that into a marketing tool. And to be able to say that your company is your most important product, and you should be building your company's brand constantly and measuring it and valuing it and improving it where you can. And that really differentiated us. And I started writing books. I wrote Leveraging the Corporate Brand and The Best of Branding and Branding Across Borders, all these various books, which really put us on the map. And it did it in two ways. Number one, the chief marketing officers, although they weren't called that at the time, were really interested because we could tie advertising into value for the company. And we were invited into a lot of pitches, and we had advisors at the very highest level helping us to get into these pitches and to be able to say, this is what we offer and we'll help you. And we don't have to do the big advertising if you don't want to, but we'll consult with you and help make sure you stay on track. That worked like a charm. One of my clients was McGraw-Hill, the publisher of my books, and one of my other clients was Business Week, which was owned by McGraw-Hill. So they were promoting us. They were running full page ads in Business Week and full page ads in the Wall Street Journal, promoting our books and promoting me as a spokesperson for the industry. It worked like a charm and really put us on the map. We created our own brand, and it just, I say overnight, but over a period of 10 years,
Yeah.
we really developed into a highly marketable, desirable consulting slash advertising slash brand identity firm.
Yeah.
And we started making acquisitions. We acquired a team who had a great account, and they weren't happy working with their big agency. And we hired a whole team at one time, came over with the MasterCard account. Well, that was fantastic, and we really put us, built the meat of the company, the value of the company over time. So
Yeah.
it was really a heck of a journey for building and leveraging our own brand in a very methodical and careful way. It
Yeah.
wasn't all easy by any means, but it was really exciting and fast paced and fun.
Yeah. But the cliff notes, though, are meaningful. So can I double tap on a few things in that?
Sure.
So you set out on your own, and I do want to provide this as context for everyone. You didn't start the agency in 73, 74 with your wife. She became your wife shortly after you were. So you jumped into a business full on, business and life. We're going to figure this out and do this together, which for someone who's started a business with what later became his wife resonates with me. Like the whole world orients towards taking the hill and setting out on this vision together. And it's like you against the world. Is that what it felt like?
Very much. It was. I often used to say I had more guts than brains.
Yes.
I was absolutely determined. I knew where I wanted to go. I was lucky enough to find a partner who was with me on it. She said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, let's do it." And she walked away from a really good job on Wall Street to do that. So it was a real
Yeah.
commitment on her part, and we were a great team for many years. I mean, we still are, by the way.
So you start this new venture together. You're piecing clients together and work, and you do that over time. In what year did you publish the first book on corporate brands and branding?
It was very late in the 1980s.
Okay.
So the late 80s, early 90s. And once we started producing, we had one every 3 years. It just was
Yeah.
like clockwork.
The thought leadership that you did, you had to teach the market and the champions within these corporations the language so they could even hire you, which is fantastic. It's a fantastic strategy for a go-to-market. When did you hire because it was the two of you for a long time. When did you start expanding the team? What year was that?
Well, it was a kind of a steady flow of increase over time. We hired where we had needs. If we needed a corporate identity expert to develop a logo, that we would hire someone, and then often that person liked what we were doing and wanted to join the company, and so we would that's how we grew, and we had a wonderful group of people. I mean, our team, we we were the little guys. We were the, fly speck in terms of comparing us to the big agencies. And it galled them. It really galled the big agencies when they had to promote us. They had to create ads promoting our team, promoting what we were doing, promoting my books, knowing that I was coming after them. It was so much
They were
fun.
losing to the smallest ad agency on Madison Ave.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So you start this journey project. As work comes in, you're cobbling and recruiting people to help get that work done, and it starts kind of developing into a business beyond just the two of you, where There's actual commitments. You're bringing people along this journey and you start publishing these books. Can I share, or can you share that secret you gave me? Like when you told me this about your books, it was like,
I'm not sure which secret we're talking about.
how did you produce all these books at that cadence?
Well,
It was so brilliant.
I had a full-time person who was formerly worked at a bank and had just the right sound, just the right attitude in his writing. And I hired him full time and he would write with me, but he was doing the bulk of the writing. And he would write overnight and come in the next day, share it with me. I'd read through it, say, yes, that's on target, change this, change that. And we worked as a team. His name was Jack Wishman, and he was with me through most of my business books.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. One of my business partners had the most awarded digital agency in the 90s. And do you want to know how he became the most awarded digital agency? He hired someone's, and their full-time job was to submit to awards. And guess what happens? You're going to have more awards because you have someone proactively submitting and participating in that than not. The same way, if you're going to create thought leadership in your space, you have to have someone's job be supporting you in that initiative. If you're trying to do that all yourself or just trying to earn it and wait for someone to knock on your door and give you an award, that's not how it works. Not only did you want to be in Madison Avenue ad agency, you just went and took it. You didn't wait. You didn't go apply to join someone else. You went and took it. You didn't wait to the book time to be allocated to you. You made it an initiative, support it, and got it out of you. Dr. Jim, that was your entire story. You made things happen that didn't even exist. Corporate brand strategy.
We had no template that we followed. We just were determined, and everyone in the company was tuned into it. I mean, I said, we're going to change the world. That every meeting that we started, that's what I said. We're here to change the world. The way the world thinks about advertising and communication, we're going to change it. And we did. Not an earth-shattering change, but we moved the needle, and it was fantastic for us. We really had a good time with it.
And then you did another thing, just naturally without any instruction or manual. You expanded through an acquisition of a book of business, a major account.
Yes. This team came to us and they said, we're going to open up our own agency. And my partner, Larry McNaughton at the time, he met with them and said, that's a lot of work. Congratulations. I hope it works out. And they said, well, how do you do it? And we said, we can take all of that burden off of you and you can join our company and we'll work together. And we did. And that was exploded our book of business in terms of, it was a balancing act. Consulting, there's a contradiction or a conflict of interest if you're consulting to promote increased advertising and then offering the advertising. It's a conflict.
Slight bias there. Yes.
Yeah. And my clients didn't, they noticed that. They said, this isn't quite right. So we operated in parallel, and we had the consulting and the advertising and brand identity firms in the same office, but working in parallel. So we had consulting clients and then creative graphic design advertising clients as well.
Yeah. Date that that deal for me. When did that happen relative to the agency's timeline?
Early to mid 90s, I think. That sounds about right.
And what did that give you? Was it 30% growth in the business, 20%? What was the impact of making that deal?
It grew very quickly for a period of time. One of the problems we had is it was growing so quickly, we got overly ambitious and we expanded our. One of the things I never worried about was office space, the cost of overhead, because I was so conservative and my partner, Evelyn, was so conservative about keeping our overhead low. They came in and really had ambitions to open up a big New York office. But at that time, we had moved out of New York City to Stamford, Connecticut. And We had a wonderful office space there, but they had to commute, do a reverse commute, and they didn't like it. So we were doing very well, and we said, "Well, yeah, let's go ahead and build out a New York space." And it just soaked up all of the profits. I mean, very quickly we got into not trouble, but we had to watch every nickel rather than
Yeah.
really enjoying the ride. We had to be very careful about how we were growing.
At this time, if you think back, did you feel like the ad man you wanted to be?
Well, it was a whole different ball game because advertising itself was becoming less and less attractive to me. It's tougher and tougher industry. The old 15% commission that I came in with, I mean, that was the beginning.
Yeah.
And T squares and, and
Yeah.
15% commission, that was out the window, and there was nothing to build a business on. It wasn't respected by clients either. The creative
Yeah.
process was not respected. So that part of the business struggled. The corporate identity grew. I mean, that was really solid. And our consulting business was solid. And we expanded that to include something called the Core Brand Index, which was a research project that we did in cooperation with the Wall Street Journal and GE, and developed something that's called the Core Brand Index to track the corporate reputations of 500 companies. And we started doing this on a quantitative basis by using phone
Yeah.
interviews. And it was fantastic. We could go in with proof positive that an advertising campaign worked or it didn't work, or some disaster or incident that might have happened in the company, like a new CEO. Does it bring
Yeah.
a positive image to the company or a negative image? And we could help manage that on a quantitative scale. It was fantastic. Again, the more sophisticated we got,
Yeah.
the more pushback we got from our clients and their ad agencies and that sort of thing. So we were really fighting against
The
the
incumbent.
tiger.
Yeah, the incumbent and the
Oh yeah,
just so I can kind of set the expectation for the listener, your dad was blue collar steel worker, wasn't he?
that's correct.
And so you came into this white collar world from the glitz and glam of Madison Avenue advertising. And now you're many years later going, the advertising model is broken. You're now a consultant, a strategic consultant. That's very different than your upbringing.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so.
So, I mean, it's important for the listener, for someone who maybe doesn't come from white collar parents or come from the industry itself. You forged a path that didn't exist at a time where it wasn't as available and accessible, and you didn't have any of the advantages of, the parents are doctors and now you become a doctor.
Yeah.
It wasn't natural for you to step into this, and you built it. No wonder Evelyn stayed with you. Like,
No, it's absolutely true. One piece of advice that I would give your listeners is two things actually. Have a board of advisors. You don't have to have a board of directors, but have a board of advisors of the very, very best people in your industry. You will be amazed by just simply asking them to help you, to join you with and you can give them a token $100 a year and they're happy to do it. That is really, it's just amazing. And the best people that you can find in the industry will join you, and you can get together once every 6 months, but you can ask them the tough questions. You can really reach out to them anytime during the year to get information from them, or to open doors for you, or to help make something happen. It's a very exciting thing. The second thing is to take the time, take 1 week a year, and go away with your spouse, just you and your spouse, and focus on what's the big idea that you're working on. Where are you going with this company? Are you on track? What are you not doing that needs to be done to make things happen? And that really worked for me. That was so helpful. We would have a 5-year plan, and we'd update that every year, that 5-year plan. So we always knew where we were, and I always shared it with the company. We also had an employee meeting, a full staff meeting. Every single person in the company, we'd go off site and have a full day of just thinking about the company.
So
Uh,
important.
and so those things really mattered. I still get great feedback from my former employees about how we were able to keep the company tracking in a certain
Yeah.
direction. Everyone knew where we were going and why.
How did you segment or assign responsibilities between you and Evelyn?
She was in charge of the office management. I was in charge of sales and creative. Very, very clear delineation. I asked her once to present a project that I didn't have the time to do it, and it was due. And I asked her to just take the work and go and present it. And she said, "No." That was so. I learned my lesson. That was it.
Know your role and lane, and say no when appropriate.
Yeah.
I want to unpack the brand of Core Brand Index. So you built a methodology, is that fair? And what would you call it? I mean, the research itself is one thing, but how, if I were to describe it as a tangible IP, what did you build exactly?
Well, the data itself, the quantitative research over time, there is nothing like it at all. It was absolutely unique in terms of the research at the time. We had basically 20 years of consistent quantitative research over time. The the models that we built, and I can't take full credit for this. I had the idea for the models, but I had my nephew who joined the company was a brilliant gentleman, and he earned his doctorate as well after I did. But he built models with another gentleman from DuPont called Jack Frey, and the two of them would sit and noodle these models. And the models were that if you can predict how much communication you're going to spend, you can evaluate whether spending more will have a financial impact on the cash flow multiple of the company, positive or negative. So it gave you an actual tool to be able to say, this is a worthwhile investment or not worthwhile, or we must do it just to maintain our position. And it was a very reliable model. Not everybody liked it. When it went really well, it was used at the very highest levels of the company. People like John Chambers at Cisco Systems used it. Michael Dell at Dell Technologies used it. And we would work with them on explaining very tough things, very
Yeah.
tough decisions, very, very detailed projections. And we had a very powerful, real tool that could be used in real time to be able to test and prove out our theories, our ideas. Now, I could get an entire boardroom of people nodding that this is a good idea. And all we needed was one naysayer in the organization to absolutely destroy it. And that was the culprit. That was the difficulty of selling this. Sometimes that would happen in this, that if the CEO believed in it, he'd say, "No, I believe in this. We're going to do it." But if the CEO was hesitant, then it could fall apart right in your hands. So
Yeah.
that was difficult. But you spend months getting everyone on board, and then have a board, not fully embracing something. It was at that level.
Yeah.
It had to be approved at that level.
If you had 90 seconds with that naysayer today, what's your like brand impacting valuation proof point? What's something that you tell them that, they maybe didn't understand after those months and months of education?
Well, I would simply prove in hindsight what we predicted. So we could make a prediction and then prove it. But more importantly, the actual thing that I did is after I sold my business in 2013, I went back and got a doctorate in statistics to be able, because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
My associate Jack Frey and Brad Puckey both had the statistical understanding of how these things work, but I didn't. I was a graphic designer. I knew instinctively that advertising worked, but I couldn't prove it. So we built the models to prove it. And then I also joined the conference board for 6 years to work with them and to explain the value of communication and how it works and intangible, intangible.
I'm going to get to that part, but before we just skirt over the fact that you exited the agency, at what point did you get to in the agency journey where you're like, I think it's potentially time for us to move on from here?
It was a tough decision. Yeah, you begin to feel like a pitcher who's lost his fastball. And you're the only one in the stadium that knows you've lost it, but they're in a year or so, everybody's going to know. So I just had a sense of exhaustion. My wife saw it, and she retired from the business, and she said, I've had enough. I said, I've got to try to make number one, I've got to sell the company. So I've got to keep it happening and keep it current, keep it exciting. And, but I wasn't having as much fun as I had before. And so I started.
Can you unpack that just so we can give it some labels? What about the job was not as much fun anymore?
It was the repeating of the same process, the repeating of the same issue over and over. What I just described about the boardroom meeting, I got real tired of that, of the one person who would reject out of 20. And I started getting angry, with that we couldn't get past that hurdle, that we couldn't make them feel comfortable enough with it. Where 20 others in the room would say yes, we have one person saying no, and that spoils the whole thing for everyone. It just didn't make sense to me. So I lost my enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like repetitive strain injuries.
Yes, yeah.
The stress and the friction point just over time, the same one over and over again, eventually works through.
Yeah.
She retired, left you there to figure out what to do with it. How big was the team and the company at that size as you were feeling the pressures from it?
Well, we had about 50 people, consultants. We had offices in New York and Los Angeles, Frankfurt, Germany, Tokyo, and a few others. It was getting big,
substantial, yeah,
and hard to manage. The offices weren't large; they were 3 or 4 people, and we had a formula for how to work with them, and that was all good. But I was tired of. We had gone on 2 world tours with Business Week. I gave the same speech so many times that one time I got up and I wasn't sure whether I'd given the speech to this audience, and my caretaker, the person who was with me, stepped in. He said, have a drink of water. I'll take over. And he knew my speech better than I did.
It's important to know, once you have your canned speech locked in, it's rinse and repeat. Okay, so repetitive, you got to a level of kind of critical mass of complexity. You have all of this momentum. Let's talk about, like, okay, you make the decision now. You probably had people reaching out to you over the years anyway, right?
We did. We had various inquiries, but I never felt real comfortable with them. A lot of the big holding companies came to us and paid lip service to what we were doing, but they never really thought, their thinking process was not like ours. They would offer us an earnout, that sort of thing. It just wasn't the right situation for us to sell to them.
Well, let's touch on that for the listener who's never been approached by these before. I've sold to private equity-backed strategics. My business partners have been acquired by IPG and others, the big networks, and they show up with a very clear, we love what you're doing. Jim, we love what you're doing. You're going to do that with us, and we're going to expand it across our footprint, and it's going to be this big contributing business, much bigger than you have today. So let's put an earnout in place. Let's essentially absorb you and then amplify you and pay you off of that profit, which is a very common offer from them.
Well, one of the problems with that is we were already dealing with the CEOs of their clients, so they couldn't bring that much to the table. They could introduce us at a lower level, but we didn't need that. And they had the ability to reach out to those and service those people, but they didn't have the ability to reach out to the CEO with something that the CEO is mighty interested in.
So you had all these, you got on everyone's attention because you were visible, and you've built a framework, a methodology, you wrote books on it, you've talked on those books, you're influencing these boardrooms and these organizations that quantify advertising and branding, corporate branding. When did you say, I'm not going to do a proprietary process, I'm going to go through a broker and then commit to that process? What year was that?
I would guess that was about 2010 or 11, somewhere around in there. We sold the company in 2013, and it took a period of time to do it. One of the things that really worked well with the finding a broker, Generational Equity was the broker. One of the things that really worked well with them is they helped us devise a valuation on our core brand index.
Yeah, the intangible, not exactly contributing to earnings.
Right.
How are we going to treat this in our go-to-market strategy for the business?
Yes, and that really helped, and it changed my whole outlook on how we were going to sell the company and who we would sell it to. And we ended up, we pitched a good many, half dozen potential buyers, but the one that we ended up selling to was the one who understood us the most. It was our local friendly competitor who we often shared work with, shared clients, or if something didn't fit us, we'd send it to them or they would send it to us.
The best fit option.
Yeah, it was great. And we trusted each other. And that
Yeah.
trust is proven over the payout period. It just absolutely, when COVID hit, we were flexible to help them through that time period because it hit the agencies pretty badly. And so we were flexible. They were flexible. We still have just this weekend, they asked me to write a 50-year retrospective on the company. And what a great honor that they would ask me to do that. And it
Yeah.
just so happened that I have an archives in my garage of everything that we've done. Unfortunately, I live in Bradenton, Florida, and the photographic albums are entirely ruined because they were in the garage and just
Moisture.
melted together. But I pulled them apart, and this weekend I had the best time going through this stuff. It was just so cool. Look
Yeah.
at all the projects.
So you emphasize something that's really critical, which is you have all these prospective buyers who, through the pageantry of your go-to-market, kind of describe how much they like you, what they're going to do with the business, or what they think can be done with it. You're selling them a business and you're building an annuity for you. You're going to get money from this thing that they're going to operate. So you want to be extremely confident in their ability to perform with what it is you're providing them. And it's usually the one that kind of looks like you as a competitor that knows what to do with your business.
Absolutely.
How did you spark up that conversation? Did they just see did generational equity tee it up, or was that because
Well,
how
we
did
had
that
talked to
start?
them. We had Hampton Bridwell as the CEO of the tenant partners, and we knew each other pretty well, and we occasionally have lunch and that sort of thing. And we had teased the idea between us. What do you think? I said I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start looking around, and he said, well, let's think it out. And we had roughed out some ideas, and it just wasn't working. And so we backed off. And when generational equity came in, they did their pitch to the various companies that were appropriate for us. And they said, what, who else might we look at? Who have you ever talked to before? And I mentioned Tenant Partners. At that time, they were called Brand Logic. And all of a sudden the bell rang, and it's just, this might be it. This might be the way to do it. And we had like 100 reasons why it wouldn't work. Between Hampton and I, we had so many reasons why this wouldn't work. Generational equity went through each one. Let's take 3 today. Let's just discuss 3. And here's how that would work. Here's how we'd do it. When we got through the whole list, we had no reason at all that we could think of that would stop this from happening.
Yeah,
And we moved forward. We never looked back. It was really,
it's a thoughtful
in
process.
hindsight, it was an interesting process, and it worked well.
Yeah, I teach a very similar one. It's from risk mitigation. So compliance and risk departments typically do it. It's called questions to resolve. And they say, well, let's list out all the questions, all of the objections. Let's list them all out. And then let's just spend some time writing what it would need to be true or solutions or ideas and go through it just methodically, one at a time. And when you do that, you can address almost anything in a deal.
Yes.
How long did that take?
Well, it took longer than I would have liked,
Of
but
course.
it took about a year to put the pitch together and to get the list and start reaching out. It took about
You paid them for this too during that time.
of course,
Yeah.
yes. Then it took about 6 to 8 months to realize that we weren't getting the kind of prospects that we wanted. And then it took another 6 to 8 months to work with tenant partners and close the deal.
Did you have any other in parallel opportunities while you were just before the LOI with them?
We did. We had offers that I just didn't feel good about it.
Yeah.
And my wife was fantastic in terms of being able to evaluate people and opportunities. All she'd have to do is sit in a meeting for 5 minutes and say yes or
Sniff them
no.
out.
Yeah, yeah. You had an amazing ability to do that.
Evelyn was out of the business while you were going through this process, but she was still involved
Sure.
from that perspective.
Yeah.
Who in your key management or in the company was helping you through this process with generational equity and taking these management meetings with Brand Logic?
Well, we had other partners in the company, junior partners, and they were terrific. They were tuned in to what I was trying to do. It's pretty tough to tell your team that you're doing this, but
Yeah.
you can't hide it from them. If you hide it from them, they become less trustworthy. If you tell them what you're trying to do and who you're looking for, the kind of organization you're looking for, and you're not going to settle for something that won't work just to collect the money. They trust you. That being said, I'm not sure that always works. I mean, it worked with my company, and even though I had a lot of trust in my employees trusted me, there was still a lot of anxiety, much more anxiety than I felt necessary. But that's just natural. People get anxious in this process for good reason.
It's massive uncertainty.
Yeah.
It's just normal human behavior to be stressed from
And
that uncertainty.
you no longer have control. You can't help
Yep.
them. I mean, my own daughter worked in the company and was one of the first people to be let go. And that made for some discomfort.
Yeah,
But
that
she,
does.
there wasn't a spot for her, and so
Yeah.
we explained it and tried to be as nice as we could. So it was tough.
I want to pull some lessons out of that experience, which you covered. One was you had junior partners. So you had expanded the ownership of the business years before trying to sell, right?
Yes.
So this is an important lesson for the listener. Maybe expand on what junior partners meant for the business, why you added them, and then let's connect that to how useful it is when you're selling.
Well, one thing we did was we had a private placement offering. You're going to ask me the year. I would say around the year 2000. That was to raise money and position us to be able to have the best possible spin and positioning of the company for the future. That went well, but that meant I had partners, investors in the company. And we had 5 or 6 investors that were very important to me, friends and family and people that I didn't want to disappoint.
Yeah.
So that was very much on my mind. Then incentivizing the people who had come in, the folks who came in, Carl Barnhart and Andrew Bagetsky and his team from this other competitor, we incentivized them with a stock plan so that they would give their full effort. And when their people left, we treated them very well and gave them a payout based on our agreements. So we were very reputable in terms of that was very important that we do what we say. If we have a plan and it's in writing, this is what we're going to do. We did it. We didn't weasel our way out of anything.
I hear so many things that you did well, and it's very clear in hindsight. So I want to recap that for the listener. You took action, started an agency with great uncertainty. You did it with your significant other, with your life partner, ran a lifestyle business, turned it from an advertising agency idea into a consultancy. You created thought leadership both on personal brand. You created IP in regards to a proposition to educate the marketplace to use your services. You even acquired books of businesses, so others who wanted to be a part of you or were complementary to expand your capability. You put regional people, so offices, near those clients and came up with deal structures around that to absorb competitors and pay them off to get to a critical mass. Then you brought in a junior partner level, which is an equity position in the business that has them incentivized for what you're building towards, so you could transition the business for them. And then after a little bit of market feedback, buyer feedback, and not hearing the valuation, you didn't sit on your hands. You went proactively and seeked out information and advisors, this would be the brokers in this case, to help you package the business's intangibles so the value can be appropriately represented to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And even with that, you went back to the competitor who missed the mark on their original opportunity to buy you at a discount with a clearer articulation of the value proposition and got a deal done with them. Did I miss anything?
No, that's pretty much an encapsulation of our career.
That is a blueprint, an amazing one. All you have to do is compress time instead of 4 decades, make that 4 years. That playbook is the playbook for building the type of business that is transformative for families and individuals. And then you weren't done. You were so pissed off. Give me rope on that. You're so pissed off at that 9th person in the room who didn't buy into the corporate branding analysis that you went and got a doctorate just so you could come back and say, I told you so.
Well, it wasn't so much to tell them I told you so, but to convince myself. I had 2 wonderful statisticians who understood this stuff. But when I got the doctorate, I said, I now understand it. Yeah. I understand what I've been selling. I understand my pitch, and it's absolutely correct. Everything I said was right on the money.
So validating. Yeah, but it's so validating. What if we go back in time, we hop in the DeLorean and we talk to Jim, not Dr. Jim. We talk to Jim and we say, okay, you sold the business. Is there anything that you would give yourself as insights, talking points, reassurance about how it ended up?
I think I would have gotten my doctorate earlier, so I would have a little bit more confidence in those critical meetings where I'm in the boardroom and getting that one negative. Instead of getting angry, I could have given a better response. And that didn't happen often. I mean, if it happened once, it was enough. So it didn't happen often. We had a great following and were able to prove out what we were predicting. But that's the one thing I think and I think about my competitors in this space of analysis. They all had doctorates. They all taught at universities and had a following through the universities. And that's where they recruited, and that's where they got their clients, people who went to bought their pitch. And I didn't. I was the independent, we know just as much as maybe more, but you
were still the kid who went and got a brownstone on Madison Avenue to become an agency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
but I wouldn't change a darn thing.
No. You weren't done writing books.
No.
So this is also very helpful. You can get into post-exit depression, which is when your self and ego are all tied to this journey of entrepreneurship and this thing you built. You can fill a void when you sell and you're no longer the most important person in the room or the smartest person in that room or the leader of that room. And you had a passion for writing. So you knew what you were going to do next. Where were you in storytelling and fiction in those final years of the agency versus your books coming out and you becoming a consistent author in yeah, fiction, not just nonfiction?
Well, when I was in the business, I only wrote business books, and I never thought about fiction. When I got out and got my doctorate, and I was doing so much research for the doctorate that I really became proficient at doing research for any subject. And I decided to just tell our story. I wrote a book called Small Fortunes, uh, and there's really three novellas, and this is the story of our business. But it's from a personal perspective, it's not an academic or a business perspective. It's from a personal perspective, and this this book did really well as a bestseller on Amazon internationally, and I was so pleased with that I really said, okay, writing is fun, golf is frustrating. I think I'd rather write than play golf, and so that's that's what I started doing. And
Well, I was curious before you told, what made you want to write a memoir instead of an autobiography?
I had to change the names. The names are all different, the clients are all different. If the clients who I'm speaking about in here read the book, they'll know who they are, but it's different names. So
Okay.
I wanted to be able to make it entertaining and tell stories. And it's a fun read. Then I wrote my first novel, Zephyr's War. And this is a novel about Ukrainian capitalists versus the Russian mafia. And this is before the war between them started. And this has been out 3 years, and I've had three novels in 3 years. So that was number one. Number two is Killer App, and that's about artificial intelligence, and every problem that you can think of in artificial intelligence was thrown on the protagonist in this story. And the antagonist is the artificial intelligence itself. It's called Artificial Intelligence Made Easy, Amy for short, and Amy just destroys this guy. On the other hand, it's a happy ending. He realizes that artificial intelligence is a tool, so it's not
Yeah.
anti-business. And the third one that just came out last week is called Ghost Town, and this is an historic based novel, and I'm really thrilled with this book. It's getting great reviews. It's a fun read. It's an interesting read, and it's doing very well. Just a couple of weeks in the bookstores, so
Yeah.
I hope.
For the founder, this level of focus after you sell your business is critical. You need something. You're now I mean, you had a massive career. You had 4 decades in advertising, consulting, brand, corporate, and now you're in your next phase as a published author. I'm curious, selfish because I have a book coming out this year. What in this phase of publishing books are you using as like experience from your brand building days, if anything?
It's all I'm drawing from all of my business career to write these. The experiences I had are all in there, and I've got more stories to tell.
You probably have a lot of stories.
A lot of stories to tell. I don't know how much time I have left to tell them, but that's why I'm writing, one novel a year is a pretty fast pace
It's
for all
incredibly fast.
of us.
Yeah. Any lessons are you self-publishing, working with a publisher? What do you,
I work with Morgan James Publishing in New York, and it's a great organization, and really happy with them.
do you recommend that? So say I've written a book, I'm a founder, had a career, and then I had a second career being an agency owner, and then I'm about to sell, and I really have a passion for writing and the creatives. Do you think it's like a good vocation, a good way to put your time and energy? I mean, you're biased, but for others?
I think the world of publishing and writing is changing. Artificial intelligence is opening it up the doors to people who are not natural writers and that don't have as much to say. And so it makes it easier to write by drawing on AI. That's not bad. and it's wonderful if you can do it, but it's kind of ruining the
Craft.
craft. Yeah, the writing and publishing is just changing, and another 5 years, I'm not sure that there will be writers. There will be producers of books, but
Yeah.
not necessarily writing. I hope that's not true, but I've seen it change so much in just a couple of years. And the temptation is really huge to tap into that. I don't do it, but when I wrote Killer App, I would ask it questions like, what's the thing people hate most about artificial intelligence? And Chat GPT would come out with a whole list, and here are the 9 things people hate about us. And
Yeah.
here are the 10 things that are going to change completely. They're not kidding. It's happening.
Yeah. Your books are helping to predict the future, Jim. Dr. Jim, I appreciate your time. We're at the tail end here, and I've kept you longer. You have probably a book deadline that you have self-imposed that you need to be working towards. And also, you're in launch. You've published this book. So first, I want to thank you for providing a resource and being a guide for someone who's in a similar situation at the various stages of your career, and also giving hope for those who are selling a business and were worried about what they could be spending their time doing, knowing that the stories and experiences that can have a second life and be very impactful is a tremendous value. So, Dr. Jim, thank you. If someone wants to reach out to you or buy your books, where can they do that, and where can they buy?
Well, you can buy them anywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. Buy them online or in the bookstores. But you can also reach out to me directly at James R. Gregory -books.com. It's James R is really important, Gregory -books.com. And anyone that is interested, I'm happy to give them feedback, to talk to them. I don't get that many fan mail emails. So, I'm happy to communicate
now,
with people.
because I'm going to put all those links and your email in the show notes. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, how do I find that type of board advisor that Dr. Jim was referring to? Well, he could be one of them.
Ah, very good.
Dr. Jim, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Peter. It's been fun.
For more. If you like this episode, probably like one of our other episodes. Click here.